Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our monthly installment of training for our LWIAs and other agency partners. I know it's been a little bit since we have all met, so it is good to see a lot of you. Again, for the folks that are new to this webinar, welcome. We're going to be covering a lot of information today. I know the last few webinars that we held, we kept saying, we're in the process of, creating and rolling out new updates to the VJF tool that will allow our partners to have a little bit more access in coordinating, managing, and executing VJFs more independently, if you will. So that is what we'll be going over today. As you can see on the screen that David has shared there, again, quite a few things that we're going to be covering today. So feel free to take notes. Feel free to obviously ask questions if anything comes up. Just also want you to be aware as well, we are going to be recording the session as well. So if there's anything else that you need to go back to, because we're covering so much information and covering so much ground here today, feel free to, obviously go back to this recording, look over anything that's covered. And then at that time, if you have any additional questions on any of the new, features that are going to be rolled out here for VJF, feel free to reach out to either myself or David at any time. And of course, we will, gladly answer your questions to the best of our ability. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to David to, again, kind of delve deeper into those new features. David?
Thank you very much, Daniel. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Like Daniel said, I know it's been a while and we've been talking about some updates to help all of us out here with the virtual job fair management, integrating several of the existing systems into one. We're going to show you some of the great changes that are going to help us all out. And so, before we get into some of these updates, I do want to preface them with these updates have been made in order to address SIU's capacity and best assisting our partners with virtual events, as well as to streamline our systems into Illinois workNet. And these partners, will not only help these updates, I should say, will not only help us, but our partners as well, whether they're new to the system or if they are familiar with it. And so with these updates, we have recently received a kind of large volume of requests for the larger events. And so what we want to do moving forward is our partners who are familiar with the virtual job fair process and that we've worked with on many occasions in the past, we are expecting them to take a little bit more of a hands-on approach in coordinating all the details as SIU. We, Daniel and myself, accommodate and train other partners who are not as familiar with the system and will be utilizing it moving forward. And we have met with the regional managers before and discussed these updates with them and the process. And there is an expectation that our partners will use these tools if they have not already done so. And we will continue to enhance the system based on users' feedback. We want to make this the best system it possibly can be. And, as always, as Daniel said, we're going to continue to offer our support and technical assistance as it is needed. And to kind of go back to what I had stated about some of, what some of these, the expectation for our partners and planning some of these details and taking on some of these responsibilities. These include, the initial discussions and planning sessions, ensuring that employers have their booths created, that employers have submitted their PowerPoints, and following up with participating employers for some of these larger events, promoting on social media and other items as well. And we will still be providing technical assistance as far as Zoom hosting and uploading recordings to YouTube and promoting on social media is concerned. But again, some of these single employer events and multi-employer events, we will want to train our partners throughout the state to assist these employers in putting on events in your area. And I do want to go back before we get into some of these updates that we do have on the VJF partner guide that we have at the top here, this Plan Your Virtual Job Fair event. And if you click on this, this will show 4 different icons here, and we can go into some of these. So this first one is the Virtual Job Fair Planning Quick Start Guide. And this provide, no matter the format of the interview, if it's a single employer event or multi-employer event, this goes through kind of the ins and outs of what to expect in putting on an event. And we have, a little description with links to other pages and helpful documents, as well as short videos for each of these sections here. So this, covers the Quick Start Guide. This is, the Virtual Job Fair introduction. The next major step is inviting employers to participate, and then coordinating these event details, and then final preparations. And there's a lot of items, within each of these steps, and we can and will, talk about this, as needed, and you're free to review this page, the content, the documents, the links, and the videos, and review the items for single, multi-employer event and legislative events. And we can talk about these more, maybe after we cover some of the updates and questions that might come up. But we do have quick start guides that do provide an overview of all the work that's expected and performed for putting on these events. And so, with SIU assistance and without SIU assistance. But like I said, we can get into those in a little bit, but I do want to cover the updates that have been made. So if I'll go back to this partner tools, the updates we have to the VJF system. So we'll go over some of the minor ones first. There was an issue on an employer booth page that in the case of really long links, they would kind of extend outside of the box on the employer booth. We've corrected this, so that's no longer an issue if that had come across. In some cases, when an employer would add documents to their booth listing after their booth was approved, there needed to be a re-approval process, but that's been addressed. So once the employer booth is approved, it will remain approved until the booth end date lapses. But then, that can be renewed as needed. We've also added the ability to retroactively add older previous virtual job fair event recordings to employer booth pages. This was not a feature that we had initially when this was the virtual job fair system was set up. But the big thing about this is, and we did this earlier this week, we did review all the employer booths that are in the system, and we cleaned up a lot of the duplicates. That way, all the information is in one place. There might be a few more, but it was a great starting point to get those booths cleaned up. We've also added to when an employer goes to submit a booth, and also if they go back to update it, there's a question that asks them if they're interested in learning more about work-based learning opportunities with grant-funded programs. To show you what that looks like when an employer goes to add or edit the booth through their dashboard once it's been approved, this question will appear right here where they can select the industries that they're hiring in. There's a checkbox here, and then we'll have a follow-up process for that. So this is just a way to, for us to identify if there are employers that are interested in work-based learning and apprenticeship opportunities. We have an updated registration feature. We're still kind of working out some of a few minor details with that, but we have the option to integrate registration into Illinois workNet. But like I said, there's another item or two that we need to update, which I'll get into when we start talking about the major updates here. And so now we have created scheduling tools that for single and multi-employer events that are available to SIU, the virtual job fair team with Illinois WorkNet, and our partners who have access to the virtual job fair system that are currently identified in our customer support center groups for each LWIA. And so the way to access this, if you've accessed the virtual job fair dashboard before, so when you log into your account on WorkNet, under personal tools, we have this virtual job fair icon. And if you select this, this will take you to the virtual job fair booth management. And if you are familiar with this, you'll know that for each LWIA that you'd only see the employer booths that have a physical location in your area. Now, since Daniel and myself, we work with all the workforce partners, we'll see every booth in the system. And so, the booth management, this hasn't changed too much. For employers, the biggest feature is when they go to manage their virtual job fairs, and when they go to add virtual job fair, they can add their own and fill in these dates. This hasn't changed. They can include the link to the job fair for more information, including registration or a recording of their event. But if they request assistance in hosting a virtual job fair, instead of a previous Google form, what'll happen is information kind of tied to their Illinois WorkNet account, such as their booth ID, name, phone number, and email will automatically populate here. And then we'll also ask questions if they need assistance in training Zoom, the date range and time for when they'd like to hold their virtual job fair event. If they're open to participating in an event with multiple employers or just their own, the target population for this event, if they accept non-English speaking employees, and if yes, will they provide their own translator? And once they submit this request, they'll receive a message that a member of the virtual job fair team will follow up with them. And so what happens once that request is made is this will appear. We'll go back here to the booth management. So we've added this button here, Vjf Event Administration. And if you select this drop down, you'll see single employer VJFs and multi-employer VJFs. And so we'll go with the single employer VJFs for now. So we'll click this, and this will take you to a dashboard that will show the single employer event request. So one employer makes a request to hold an event, and a record is created here. And as on the previous page, where for each LWIA, they'll only see the booths located in their region, they'll only see the requests within their region here on this dashboard. And so when you come to this dashboard, we have filters here that you can sort by the status of the event, all, if it's open or a new request, if it's in progress of being coordinated, if it's been completed, and if it's been canceled. And you can search by start and end date through the single employer requests. We've also added a event follow-up designation as well. So we have all needs follow-up, followed up with employer, and completed. And once these selections are made, you will just click the filter button and it'll sort through the table here. And then you can clear the results as well. And so then in this table here, we have, we can see there's 8 records here, one for each of the employers. And we can see this information that we mentioned in the fields. So for example, if we select this one down here, New Lawrence Hall. So this will take you to the request detail. And so this will have a little bit more information about what that employer has requested. So we can see the name of the employer, the start and end date of when they would like to hold their event. You can see the submission date, the selected available times that they would like to hold their event, if they need training on Zoom, And then that designation again, if they'd like to participate in a live event with just their organization or others. The target population for this event, we can see adults, active military veteran spouses, and dislocated workers have been selected. And then those questions about if they accept non-English speaking employees and if they'll provide their own translator. And so we can see as well that, and as we're coordinating the event and determining the time and date that works best for everybody, this can be changed here. So you may have noticed this says 12 a.m. for 10/18, but that is just by default with the system for now. And so if October 18th, it turns out that doesn't work for the partner for this region or the employer, maybe it becomes November 9th, and then we can just update that easily enough here. And we can also change the start and end time of this. So we can change from AM to PM, and we can change so if it ends at 2:30, we can say it starts 2 to 2:30. And over here, so if we were working on this, it's open, we would say now it is in progress. And we see the contact information for the individual from this employer, this organization that submitted the request. And so we see their name, their email, their phone number, the region they're located in, and the industries that they're hiring in. And I do want to say there are some additional updates that we have that I would say are going to be made public within the next few business days, that the selected available times, the selected available times, the target population, and the industries, those will be from the management side, we'll be able to edit and change those as it could change and as new job opportunities open up, or the fluidity of the event and having those discussions. So yes, once all this information has been ironed out, the date and the time for all parties involved, what can then happen is the webinar information can be created. And so we'll include the webinar URL here, Zoom, or if you are hosting using your own webinar platform, you can include the link here. The additional information, this could be additional information about the call, such as the meeting ID, call-in number, and so forth. And we do have the registration link here. And so while we've added registration to Illinois WorkNet, a registration page is automatically created for this for every single employer request. And so if we copy and paste the registration page here, we will get a overview of, and it'll look similar to what's been on Eventbrite and what currently is. And so we can see the name and date and time of the event, the number of job openings, the industries that they're hiring in, and the location. And this information, at least this part, is tied to their employer booth. So as updates are made to their employer booth, it'll be reflected on the registration page. And I know this says October 18th at midnight, but once we make the change here on the start and end date and click save, those updates will automatically be reflected right up here on this registration page. And then we, from the employer booth page, we pull in the employer's description. And we also have information on registering for the virtual job fair, or after registering, what to do. So we have a demonstration below and a couple articles for job seekers on how to prepare for a virtual job fair event and what to know about attending virtual job fairs. And their employer logo will appear here as well, but it looks like we might have to update this employer logo. But from this page, one of the things we have in place is for job seekers, we have register now. Now, since I'm signed into my Illinois workNet account, I've automatically gotten to this next page. If they do not have an Illinois workNet account, they'll be asked to sign into one or create it. And once they get to this registration page, we have some of that demographic information that we have started to include on Eventbrite that we can collect here. And so we have race, gender, current employment status. If they select recently laid off, they can add the name of the employer there. We have the veteran status question. We have a question if they're new to this field or have past experience working in this industry. And then we have if they would like their resume forwarded to the employer. If they select yes, they can include a link to the resume. And if they select no, then we do add an item here that that asks if they need assistance in updating their resume, and that they can contact their American Job Center, and that will direct them to the service finder page on Illinois workNet. And we also have a line about which LWIA they're in. And below this, we also have a link to more information about the Illinois workNet resume writing guide. And then the last question we have on registration is if there are any accessibility needs. And if yes, then they can add a comment here and enter that, so we can provide accommodations as best we can, and then they'll register for that event. And so once they do register, or we'll get to that in a moment. So and then this is here just a note that to be sure for our partners to add the virtual job fair event to the calendar on Illinois workNet. And we do have a note that as you're entering the information in the workNet calendar form under series, they'll need to select virtual job fair so that it shows up on the virtual job fair calendar page. And as a reminder, that is this tab right here. And so while this is the Illinois workNet event calendar, this one is filtered specifically to virtual job fair events. And so that series tag is needed for virtual job fair so that it does show up on this calendar. And so below this, we have post-event follow-up. So after the event's been held, I know some of the questions that have come up before was determining success and outcomes of the event. And the partners would have to follow up with the employers and those who participated to kind of get a sense and determine how many individuals were hired as a result of this event. And this is a number selection here, as well as how many attended the event. And so we can you enter a number and use these up and down arrows to select a number, as well as which industries that were hired in. And these can be selected with ease here. And I do want to note that any changes that are made to this event page, you have to click the save button. We have it at the top and at the bottom. If you don't click the save button, those changes will not be reflected. And below this, we have.
Sorry, I got a webinar, and let me close out this web.
Sorry about that. So below this, we have a couple more things I want to cover. We have the export registrants. And so this would pull a Excel download of the information that's collected on registration. For now, we do not have this active because one of the things we want to add is for the ability for individuals who do register for the event to download the event information to their calendar, whether it's Gmail, Outlook, or whatever, Safari, whatever their email provider is, that they can download it to their email calendar. That way, they don't miss out, and they do get a reminder of the webinar. The thing is, though, with that is, at the moment there's only so many downloads we have per month, but we are looking into a way to kind of accommodate larger volume of those downloads. So for now, at least, we have it in place, but we want to allow job seekers that functionality. So the registration, it's here. We just need to do one more thing with that to get that fully on production. And down here we also have notes. So if you click this add note button, what you can do is you can enter text in a comment box. And what will happen is, once you save the note, it will generate down here. And in fact, since that is actually a booth that is on production, let me go into the test environment to kind of demonstrate, where you can get a sense of a booth that has been, a booth event that's kind of been filled out a little bit more. So once we get this to load here on test, go over to single employer virtual job fairs. Okay, let's select this one. Okay, so at least for this, so this is what we have on test for this organization. You can see that this is completed. We have the available times. You can see here on test that we have the ability to change the filters for target population and available times. And we can see that the webinar information has been added here, the registration link, and we can see that 12 attended this event and 5 were hired in construction and arts, entertainment, and recreation. And so, along the way, what we could do in coordinating this is, when we click this add note button, once there's that initial request, we can say, we can just add, we reached out to the employer to coordinate a date and time for their virtual job fair event. And so when you click save, you can see that the note's been saved successfully, and that we see the note and who added it and the date and time of when that was added. And so that way, if there's multiple people in your organization who have access to these dashboards, if someone was the lead and then somebody maybe was out sick, but they still had to, they can pick up where the other contact left off and figure out what the status is and what's needed next. So that we can say event in a next comment, the event date and time has been set for, let's say, 11:15 at 2 p.m. Process of creating social media posts and flyers for this virtual job fair. And so, you can keep adding notes, just to make sure that all, aspects of the event are, being coordinated and finalized, and so forth. And so we do have that feature here. And the notes automatically save, whether or not you click back or save, but everything else, and I do want to stress that you have to click save in order for those changes to be made. And so I want to, so then once we go back, we'll be taken to the single employer dashboard here. Actually, let me stay on test. Okay, so we have and once you're on the single employer dashboard, I do want to point out that you can go back to the booth management, which is, this view that you would have. But you can also go to the multi-employer virtual job fairs. And this is very similar to the single employer dashboard, but with a few minor, with a few more subtleties to it. So under, we'll go to, this event here, David Garvey's multi-employer virtual job fair event. We can see that for the multi-employer events, you have the ability to change the industries. Because there's more than one employer. It's not tied to a specific booth as the previous dashboard was with those records. This is for, these are the events that have 4 to 10 or 12 employers on them. So with a variety, we can choose which industries we want to show on the registration page. And we do have additional notes. This is kind of the about part of the event. Let me do a copy the registration page here. So the event registration page must be a programmer working on this, but for the event registration page, this additional notes, that would kind of be the description about the event that can be updated as needed. And we have a default multi-employer logo. I know with our partners that we've done the events before, the larger events before, there's been, whether it's a legislative office or, a few state agencies putting on the event, a different logo can be updated, but we just have this as a default for now. And then the post-event follow-up and the notes section is the same as the single employer dashboard as well. And when I press back, so we do have a couple other buttons we've added here. So we have request assistance in hosting a multi-employer virtual job fair. So once we select this, we'll then see a form. It's similar to the one we saw when employers request assistance in an event, but this is more for the partners, and this would be how they would facilitate requests with their events. So we have the partner, the point of contact. They would enter their name, their LWIA, their phone number, their email address, the industries that they're wanting to hire in, a date range, time slots for when they would prefer to present, target population, and a text box for to allow them to tell us a little bit about the event and those details. And when they click submit, which we can go ahead and do this now. So David Garvey's November VJF. I am in Springfield, Illinois, so that's LWIA 20. Enter my name. Phone number and email. Let's say we're hiring in a few industries. And I do want to point out that due to kind of a lot of the details that go in with the multi-employer coordination, that we do have it set. So today's date is October 1st, but the earliest one is October 29th. That's just at a minimum. That there are other requests in the mix, so it may not be guaranteed that you can have the event 4 weeks out, but that's at least the amount of time that's needed to plan and execute everything perfectly. And so we will just select, let's see, first few weeks of November, and the times are available, the target population, and just a brief description. For Central Illinois. Okay. And so once we submit this, we'll get a message. Thank you for submitting your event. Member of the Illinois WorkNet Virtual Job Fair will be following up with you soon to schedule a meeting and discuss your event further. So when you click OK, that will close there. And so if we refresh this dashboard here, let's go back to over here and filter to submission date, we can see that a record for this has been created. And so, we can go in here and select this, and then, we've seen this screen a couple of times already in this call, what, details and how that we can, start to coordinate and have discussions with this partner about when they can hold their event and what they have in mind. So we also, you may have noticed this column here, assistance requested, yes or no. So if for the entries that show yes, that would be the partners that selected this request assistance. Although you may also see that there's some that have no. And so that would be if a partner who is, very familiar with the virtual job fair process and, all the details, they could select add my own multi-employer event. And we have a few notes here that, this is just kind of a heads up that, that a lot of the details for planning and coordination would fall to the partner to perform and not the Illinois WorkNet team, Daniel or myself. And we also have links to, view this page to learn about the different items you'll be responsible for in coordinating this event. And this shows, with Illinois WorkNet staff's assistance and without, it just has a breakdown of all the steps involved from creating registration to adding it to the calendar, social media posts, Zoom training, technical assistance, and so forth. And another reminder to add it to the WorkNet event calendar. So they can click create the event and they would fill out this form again, and it would show up in this dashboard here. And I'm just taking a look at my notes to see if there's anything else to cover. I do want to say as a reminder that, on the booth management, that, the partners are only seeing the employer booths in their region. For the single employer requests and the multi-employer requests, whether you're adding your own or requesting assistance, you're only going to see the events in your region within this dashboard here. And so one of the, after kind of going over these updates, if you have any questions, you can certainly enter them in the chat. But I do want to say, kind of going back to what was mentioned earlier in this call, that, we would be asking for, some of our partners who are familiar with the process of virtual job fair to, we encourage them to take on a little bit more responsibility with the coordination and planning of the events and following up with the employers. That way we can accommodate and train LWIAs who are not as familiar or with the virtual job fair system. And so what we are asking is that each LWIA to please identify at least one point of contact that we can reach out to and start sending these single employer event requests. That way, we have, the Illinois WorkNet team, that we have, the latest point of contacts for each region that we can give virtual job fair permissions to if they don't already have that. And that way they can access the booth management dashboard, the single employer event request dashboard, and this multi-employer virtual job fair events. And you can either add them in the chat now, or you can send an email to Daniel and myself. I'm going to be adding our email addresses if you don't already have them into the chat here. We will be sending out an email as well about this. Yep, thank you, Daniel. And so with that, I guess we will open it up to Q&A about these updates or anything else. And I know it's kind of a lot of information, but if there are certain features or documents, templates we can provide, please let us know. We can put something together and attempt to accommodate as best we can, if it's within our means. And Daniel, please feel free to chime in if there's anything I may have overlooked.
No, I don't think so. Obviously, very, very thorough job and presentation there. So thank you very much, David, for that. And I just want to go ahead and also state, I want to give a little bit of praise and approbation to obviously David and our programmers over at workNet. I know they both have been chipping away at creating this system literally from scratch for many, many months now. Definitely started, I do believe, at the beginning of the year. So it's been very much almost, as you can see, a year-long process here to get these systems in place in order to you not only make sortation of things a little bit easier, tracking things easier, coordination easier, but as David stated, we very much over here at workNet are a team of two. And as you can imagine, with the additional unemployment benefits running out as folks are, faced with, the circumstance of having to go back to work, we have received an incredible volume of especially multi-employer requests and more specifically legislative requests. And as you can imagine, for those of you who have taken part of that process, it is very, very time consuming, a lot of steps that have to take place, a lot of coordination that goes, along with not only our office, but, legislator offices, looping in partners, so on and so forth. So point being here, takeaway here is that, we are hoping that, the individual LWIAs and partners who have access to this tool, if you folks can, assist in, again, planning, coordinating, marketing, and executing these single employer events in your region as much as possible, it would definitely be of great assistance to, I know, David and myself, and allowing us to be able to have a little bit more time to focus on, these larger scale events that we're doing statewide. So just a couple things that I wanted to add there and let folks be aware of and know. And of course, as I always state, you're more than welcome to reach out to myself or David at any time. I like to think we're highly responsive, and we're more than happy to help and answer any questions that you have. And we know a lot of information was being thrown at you, but again, we want to highlight that the session has been recorded today and would highly encourage you to review the session, to see that walkthrough that David gave us. And I know David and I have spoken offline about putting together a kind of comprehensive document that would outline the process that was covered here today as well. So again, just wanted to state that. And of course, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat or unmute yourself and ask. Excellent. Well, I just do want to say, if you already are in that CSC group for virtual job fair, you are able to access everything that David covered here today. So you could literally, take a look at this system and the tools that are in place today. If you need added to that group and you don't have, kind of that administrative access to it, please, please reach out to us with a point of contact so we can get somebody added again to that CSC group so they have proper access to this tool and can begin kind of exploring it, using it, asking questions if need be. And if you are a specific LWIA or partner, you are, have been tasked with being the primary lead for your region, feel free to reach out to myself or David as well. If you need, kind of more one-on-one assistance or training with the tool, we're more than happy to help. Again, on a case-by-case basis, and we'll do our best to accommodate that. Again, so we can provide kind of a seamless transition to this tool as possible. So that is all I have. I don't know, David, if you have anything else you'd like to add.
I do not, but yeah, again, thank you all for joining us this morning. We will be sending a follow-up email kind of summarizing what we've covered today, and this recording will be available on the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel later today, as well as within the VJF partner guide. Under the partner training materials and videos page, we will be adding the recording here. And yeah, again, just to reiterate, if you do have any questions or concerns or anything, whether it's about these updates or something else about virtual job fair, by all means, please send an email to Daniel and myself, and we're more than happy to meet and discuss with you and answer any questions you may have. And seeing no questions in the chat, I think we can go ahead and wrap this up a little bit early. So once again, thank you very much. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day and weekend. Thanks, everybody.